Are we ready?
We're ready.
Okay, please raise your right hand. I, David L. Cos,
I, David L. Cos,
the undersigned,
elected
member of the Council of the City of Avon Lake, Ohio,
elected member of the Council of the City of Avon Lake, Ohio,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I am a resident and qualified elector of said city,
that I am a resident and qualified elector of said city.
and I further swear
And I further swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully,
honestly,
honestly,
and impartially
and impartially
discharge the duties of the office
discharge the duties of the office
of member of the Avon Lake City Council
of member of the Avon Lake City Council
during my continuance in said office
during my continuance in said office
of an elective term
of an elective term
expiring December 31st, 2023.
of an elective term expiring December 31st, 2023.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Council meeting to order for December 30th. Please stand. Mr. Costa, if you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Rossman, roll call, please.
Mr. Arnold.
Here.
Mrs. Campo.
Here.
Mrs. Fenderbosh. Mr. James. Mr. Koss.
Here.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Here.
Mr. Zuber.
Here.
Mayor Zilka.
Here.
Assistant Law Director Graves.
Here.
Finance Director Presley.
Here.
And Public Works Director Wright.
Both Mr. James and Mrs. Fenderbosh are on vacation with their families. Any objections? That audience participation, anyone like to speak to the issues of legislation that are in the agenda? Got 3 minutes. Okay, with that, we'll go to legislation. If the clerk will read under second reading, temporary legislation 11,329R, please.
An ordinance to make appropriations for the current and other expenditures of the City of Avon Lake for the fiscal year 2020 and declaring an emergency.
I move for suspension of the rules requiring 3 readings. Ms. Rossmarin with the roll, please.
Mr. Koss.
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Mr. Zuber.
Yes.
Mr. Arnold.
Yes.
Mrs. Campo.
Yes.
I move for passage of 11,329R. That'll turn it over to Mr. Presley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This appropriation ordinance would be the annual appropriation for 2020. It reflects all of the changes, amendments, or discussion points that we had in our various budget meetings. It also includes the Avon Lake Regional Water appropriations or budgets that their board has also passed and relayed over to us for inclusion in this legislation.
Thank you, sir. Further comments? Mr. Zuber.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the past, I haven't supported the budget because of the process that we have had. I am going to support it this year. A couple of reasons why. We have an additional $1 million going into the roads. I think the process has improved. At least we're having 2 readings. I hope in the future that we can have 3 readings and start the process for the budget review more than 3 weeks before we vote on the budget. The other issue that I have is basically today we have 5 people here to vote on the budget. We have to pass the budget. If one person would not have suspended the rule, then we wouldn't have passed the budget. We would have had a problem. I think that we can hopefully in the future do a little bit better job of the coordination and have more discussion than just 3 weeks.
Thank you, sir. Any further comments? Ms. Rossmarin with the roll, please.
Mr. Koss.
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Mr. Zuber.
Yes.
Mr. Arnold.
Yes.
Mrs. Campo.
Yes.
In second reading, we go to first reading. The clerk will read temporary legislation 11,331, please.
An ordinance to amend appropriations for the current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Avon Lake Avon Lake for the fiscal year 2019 and declaring an emergency.
I move for suspension of the rules requiring 3 readings. Ms. Rossmarin with the roll, please.
Mr. Koss.
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Mr. Zuber.
Yes.
Mr. Arnold.
Yes.
Mrs. Campo.
Yes.
I move for passage of 11,331. I'll turn that over to you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. This is adjustments necessary to reflect the actual expenditures of the city. In many instances, there are some reductions, primarily in the general fund because of Public Works and the Fire Department. I'd like to go through just a couple of the increases on here. Under the Improvement Fund 205, that reflects, or the increase reflects the phone system that you recently approved, the purchase of the Farr and Grau properties. In Fund 302, that large amount of money represents the 2015 advance refunding we did, where we are actually calling in those bonds at this point. So that $3,234,000 is for the calling of the bonds pursuant to that advance refunding we did a few years back. And then some of the other reductions, primarily in the utilities funds, are for some capital projects that they didn't anticipate and therefore didn't go and actually either get OPWC money or take out additional debt. So those were reduced to reflect their actual activities throughout the year.
Thank you. Further comments? Ms. Rossmarin with the roll, please.
Mr. Koss.
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Mr. Zuber.
Yes.
Mr. Arnold.
Yes.
Mrs. Campo.
Yes.
That, we'll need a motion to adjourn. Mr. Costa,
So moved.
further discussion? Ms. Rossmarin with the roll to adjourn, please.
Mr. Koss.
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Mr. Zuber.
Yes.
Mr. Arnold.
Yes.
Mrs. Campo.
Yes.
Concludes our meeting, special meeting for this evening. Thank you for coming down. Thank you for viewing.